So in a recent interview with the MCSC Network's The Convo Couch, Dr. Cornel West made his pitch for why he believes his vote for Joe Biden is absolutely vital to prevent fascism from taking place. Let's talk about it. So, Dr. Cornel West, one of the very few political minds that I respect, unfortunately, was gracious enough to go on to the Convo Couch with Pasta and Fiorella, and they just had a wonderful, thought-provoking conversation where Pasta and Fiorella and Johnny, along with Dr. Cornel West, were able to express a rare candidness that you really don't see with interviews with people as prestigious as Dr. Cornel West. And it was very, very refreshing. It definitely reminded me of, conversations with Nina that you've seen, just that raw honesty that even though I don't disagree with everything, or excuse me, I don't agree with everything Dr. Cornel West said about Joe Biden or, the situation at hand, I don't question his the genuine approach. I understand where he's coming from. I understand what his end goals are, and he has a rare ability to do something that a lot of other people just don't know how to do nowadays, which is say, I don't know the answer to that question, and also admit when the arguments being presented to him might be hard to argue with. So, Pasta and Fiorella asked Dr. West, well, how could you vote for Joe Biden given his history? Not the conjecture of his history, not an opinion of his history, but the absolute facts regarding everything we know to be about Joe Biden. Let's take a look at that.
Thank you, Doctor.
So you and I are both great admirers of Senator Bernie Sanders, but many of us felt let down when he dropped out and then endorsed Joe Biden, somebody who is diametrically opposed to everything he stands for. We just saw the Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden Unity Reform Commission come out, and among the missing items are Medicare for All, a Green New Deal, and defunding the police. So my question to you is, if progressives aren't getting anything from the Democratic establishment and from Joe Biden, what is the point in voting for a system that refuses to give us basic human rights?
Yeah, that's a fundamental question, my dear sister, and it's a tough one because I have a lot of close brothers and sisters and comrades who come down in different ways in response to that question, and I love and respect them. I just disagree with them in terms of a particular strategy at this moment. See, I think that we're right on the edge of this snuffing out of the democratic experiment called the USA. That the possibilities of fascism are escalating every day. I'm thoroughly convinced that Brother Donald Trump is a neo-fascist gangster. What I mean by that is he's a human being, but he has a disregard for the law. He thinks that he can say and do anything and get away with it. He's tied to big money. He's tied to big military. He poses as if he's a populist, but he's a pseudo-populist. But he has levels of venom and vitriol in his rhetoric that not just polarize the country, but generate intense animosity of different groups that could lead toward a state of emergency, calling a martial law. So that for me at the moment, I want to be first and foremost part of an anti-fascist coalition. I want to make sure that those who, for example, when I was in Charlottesville and I saw the neo-fascist brothers and sisters spitting at us and calling us names and so forth, and they calling out his name, you see, I said, ooh, good God Almighty. You see, they are emboldened. They haven't had this since Reagan, and they're growing every day. So you can't have a democratic experiment with that level of greed at the top, Wall Street, Pentagon, and at the same time, hatred on the ground. And so when Bernie came along, Bernie says,
So that's Dr. West's pitch. Like I said, obviously most of you all know I don't agree with him. I don't believe that he sensationalized the level of fascism that, at least a threat of the level of fascism that Donald Trump poses. And here's what I mean by that. Because he does pose the same legitimate threat of fascism as Joe Biden. But there is an argument that can be made. Joe Biden could end up leading to more fascism, directly and indirectly. So it's not like I disagree with Trump's potentiality to lead us into a fascist or a more fascist society. But I am also not going to pretend that the same ones in Congress right now who asked us to vote and are asking us to vote for Joe Biden are not the same ones who just expanded the Patriot Act, which is the damn poster child of legislation when it comes to fascism. I can't pretend like these aren't the same people. And I get what Dr. West is saying as far as the neo-fascist spinning on. They're emboldened. But what have we not seen? What have you, throughout that interview, he admits that a lot of his liberal friends, some that he would call neoliberals, have been just vicious towards him. Trump has emboldened a lot of people, both on the right and the left. The DNC has emboldened a lot of people on both the right and the left. You have members of Joe Biden's wing that are now like, I don't really give a damn how racist I am in practice. You better accept it because you're going to get worse if you don't join the club. Dr. West admits throughout the video Obama was basically a crypto fascist and a war criminal. He admits that Obama dropped more bombs on innocent civilians than George W. Bush did. Granted, technology just hadn't gotten that far yet, but I guarantee you, if Bush had that power out of his hands, I'm sure he would use it just like we see Donald Trump use it. But Cornel West admits that. But he also admits that the reason that Barack Obama was able to get away with a lot of what he was able to get away with was because he was basically a cover, a cloak. His positive, progressive rhetoric was shielding the fascism and the imperialism that we saw building up behind the scenes. The Patriot Act furthered under Obama, both terms, just like it furthered under Trump. We just got our task force out, or we just got their task force platform that they just put out. And Fiorella pointed that out before asking Dr. West the question, saying we're not getting Medicare for all. There's no Green New Deal. We're getting nothing. Isn't this the same stagnation, the same political stagnation that we saw lead to Donald Trump, who Dr. West says is a neo-fascist? So we want to just repeat the same thing. And I know what so I should say that he said we can't stop regardless of where we fall this election, regardless of who you vote for this election, we can't stop fighting. And I would agree with that. The problem is whenever we have people like Bernie Sanders going on MSNBC with Chris Hayes and then saying, well, if Biden wins and he implements his policy, then he'll be the most progressive president since FDR. That's a lie. That's a lie. Compared to Joe Biden, FDR is a damn revolutionary, and we all know, despite the good things that he's done, he's definitely not that. His VP was Henry Wallace, but not FDR. But comparatively, he is one compared to Joe Biden. But for Bernie to say that you have the most renowned thought leaders of the quote-unquote left basically selling the lie that somehow Trump is a little more racist than Biden is, and that somehow Trump's policies have been a little more racist than the ones that Biden has introduced. That somehow Trump is a little bit more pro-police state than Biden is. Ladies and gentlemen, Democrats and Republicans have been engaging in an unjust curfew that at first started to silence dissent against the protests for George Floyd and against police brutality. And now it has changed to, in places like Miami, well, you can't get alcohol after 8 and you have a curfew at 12 because of coronavirus. Hold on, that's not, you can't put a curfew out because of coronavirus. That's not why you implement. You said that there was violence and looting and rioting. That's why y'all have a curfew, I thought. Oh no, it's not really about that. We just want to keep you in control. And we lied to you about the reason. And we're using fear to govern you. That is fascism, ladies and gentlemen. And this is a policy that has been undertaken by both Democrats and Republicans and defended by both Democrats and Republicans. These Democratic governors alongside the Republican governors have been using the fusion centers and working with the United States intelligence community to stamp out and hunt down protests. See, Trump may be well versed in the art of neo-fascism, but Joe Biden is much more well versed in the art of crypto-fascism. And that's where I disagree with Dr. West. Now, like I said, I don't disagree with him when he calls Trump a neo-fascist. I think that he is dangerous because, well, look at what he tried to do with Iran. Look at who he's put in charge of the CIA. Look at some of the police, the pro-police state policies and authoritarian nature of how he's handled the police corruption that we've seen taking place over the last couple of months. Yeah, Trump is absolutely a problem. But just because Trump is horrid doesn't mean I just forget, oh man, that dude on the other side of the aisle is also very, very horrible. And I know Dr. West comes from a different background than I do. He's a very well educated man, works at Harvard still, I believe, has educated generations of young black men who had the opportunity to get to Harvard. But I was one of those people who I only even had the opportunity to get to Harvard basically by luck, because many of my friends became statistics because of Joe Biden's policies, Joe Biden's crime bill, which in Dr. West's defense, he admits is problematic and should be addressed, and we cannot ignore that. But to a degree, you are ignoring it. This is beyond. We asked him to compromise. Okay, we can't get that. Can you at least apologize? Nah, I didn't do anything wrong. What you talking about? Y'all forgot that? Remember how hard we had to go on Simone D. Sanders? Because she was defending Biden for not apologizing for the crime bill, defending the crime bill. Dr. West, the young black Americans and brown Americans that you speak for and defend often, and speak for not only in America, but actually you speak for black and brown people around the country. Your anti-imperialist message is one of the most consistent. I know that you supported Jill Stein. I know that you supported Ralph Nader. I know that you've went against the grain despite being in that Harvard bubble, knowing what that can mean for your career. I know, but that was then. This is now. The battle hasn't changed. And now we have a chance to put forth and fight and unite behind policies. I understand the need to influence politics because it's necessary to get the change that we seek. However, with that being said, Dr. Martin Luther King never relied on Lyndon B. Johnson, JFK, or Eisenhower. He didn't rely on them. When they were the ones in power, he worked with who he had to work with. He fought who he had to fight. He compromised where he had to compromise. But compromise also means getting something in return. He never said, well, we have to get A elected so B doesn't win because, one's a little bit less racist than the other. No, he was not naive. He was being spied on by everybody. He was not naive to that fact. Dr. King coalesced around anti-imperialist ideology, pro-equity ideology. He wasn't just against the KKK, but against anyone who would be complicit in what the KKK does, as long as it isn't happening to them. He knew that if I backed any candidate, especially back then, I lose my leverage. But I bet they want to get reelected. I bet they want to go down in history as being the president like Lyndon B. Johnson. He was known widely as the president, and is known widely as the president who desegregated the country. Although we know for a fact it was because Congress feared for their damn lives, and he really just signed the order. He didn't draft it. Made no mistake about it. He just didn't veto it because it would have been a stupid move. Why? Because of what Martin Luther King did. Like I said, he organized outside of the duopoly and then challenged the duopoly when they get their power, because he understands that self-interest oftentimes govern the decisions of even the most powerful, and they will do whatever they can to keep that power, even if sometimes that might mean giving the people what they want. So even though, by the way, I strongly encourage you to go check out that interview. Go to the Convo Couches page. Matter of fact, let me see if I can pull it up really quick. I'll post it in the description. But that interview was just fantastic. But personally, I hadn't heard his pitch to vote for Joe Biden in the past. I knew he had said it, and you know what? I did hear part of it. And the reason why I probably stopped listening was because I heard it on Michael Moore's podcast, and I was like, no. Why not take this time to work with Auntie Nina Turner? Why not take this time to work with Nick Branya, which he says, by the way, that he is going to still work with Nick Branya, and he's still behind creating a third party, of functional third party, unlike what we've seen right now at the Green Party. He said he's still going to do that, but this would be the moment where I believe, because now it's like that coalition is splintered, whereas last time you had some that either stood to this, like the Bernie coalition, they stood back, they went hardcore Hillary, which we remember who those are, but it was not as many as who went hardcore in the other direction, which was Jill Stein. But now we have the most principled of that coalition splintered off, and this time we saw Nina go hardcore in the third party direction, but more importantly, hardcore against the idea of the lesser of two evils, the lesser of two segregationists, right? But now we see Dr. West kind of, and he was honest. Go back if you did not watch the clip, but he was honest in why he felt that way, but he was also honest about the fact that he's not all that confident that things are going to turn out well, even if Biden comes in. But I do believe his analysis of why people should just swallow it, swallow their pride and go vote for Biden, hold their nose up and go do it. I do believe that it's a little optimistic and disregards history. Biden is horrid. People were more excited, if anything, about Hillary. And you would make the argument that Hillary wasn't a clear crypto fascist, especially at least in comparison to Trump. So if you can't make that argument for Hillary, you definitely can't make that argument for Biden. Biden is possibly worse because he's a crypto fascist. He's okay with crypto fascism and actual fascism. And oh, by the way, the man can't remember what he had for lunch. So guess who gets to pick all of his people? The neo-fascists. Now the military-industrial complex gets their CIA director without pushback, their FBI director without pushback, their director of national intelligence without pushback. They get their FBI, the deputy director, without pushback. They get their Patriot Act without pushback. They get their escalations with China and Russia and Iran without pushback. They get their continued war in Syria without pushback. The genocide in Yemen without pushback. Because Biden literally cannot remember what he had for lunch. So I doubt he's going to make an argument against anybody that the military-industrial complex puts in front of him and says, you better sign this or you're out. He's going to be like, signing this for what? Is this like this little Johnny's report card? Does he have to take it back to his teacher? Yeah, sure, that's what it is. Okay. Hi, what's my signature again? Honey, what's my signature? Do we got it? Do we got it saved on the Macintosh? We're potentially opening up the door for something worse than Donald Trump. But at the very bare minimum, you're by injecting this country with Joe Biden centrism, you're potentially removing that fight that you have been seeing for the last 4 years that has gotten us, that it's at least helped us evolve in the way we approach these situations. At least people aren't as complicit. At least people are more awake than they were. At least people are fighting in a way that they haven't fought before. At least the fascism that we have seen is being covered, whereas under Obama, it was being ignored and in some cases celebrated. Now, because Trump has put an ugly mask on fascism, rather than, the picture perfect, done up, make up version of fascism, which is the Obama-Biden regime, people are actually starting to want something done. They don't know what they want done yet, but it's a start. You can't solve the problem without first identifying the problem and admitting that there's one to begin with. So, other than that, the interview was amazing. It was awesome. Shout out to the Convo Couch for just conducting such a professional interview, and it was so good that Dr. West stayed on there for like an hour and some change. It was damn near like a Joe Rogan interview. That's what it felt like. So it was awesome. I loved it. He was honest. He gave a shout out to John Mubaraka, Jill Stein, the Black Agenda Report. It was just an amazing interview, an amazing conversation. And like I said, every time I watch one of his long form interviews, it always reminds me, like, when he gets going, man, Dr. West is probably one of the most inspirational people that you could ever listen to. I'm jealous of the people who've gotten to take a class with him. So go check out that interview. Other than that, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to know what your thoughts are about this interview. Like this video, share this video, subscribe if you have not, leave a comment below. But always remember, more than anything else, find your balance. Peace. If you like that segment of Mikasa Sukasa, don't forget to like the video and smash that subscribe button. Want access to members only live streams, behind the scenes footage, and other premium content? Well, you can endorse us on Rockman Premium, become a patron through Patreon, or you can sign up for the MCSC Premium membership through YouTube. All the links are in the description below. But hey, more than anything else, always remember,
find your balance.
Find your balance.
Find your balance.
Find your balance. Find your balance.
Find your balance. Find your balance.
Always remember, more than anything else, find your balance.
peace.